Not all women are born for loyalty, and that doesn't make them evil. It makes them human, in ways society refuses to explain to men. Loyalty has been sold to you as morality, as if it's a virtue baked into character rather than a capacity shaped by psychology, incentives, and self-regulation. You're taught that if someone is good, loyalty is guaranteed, permanent, unquestionable. And the moment you question that idea, you're shamed. You're labeled insecure, controlling, cynical, not because you're wrong, but because the narrative needs you quiet. Reality doesn't bend to stories, no matter how comforting they sound. Loyalty is not a moral badge people wear forever. It's a behavior that emerges when capacity meets incentive, and disappears when either one erodes. Some people can sustain it under boredom, temptation, and opportunity. Others can perform it only while conditions are perfect. Pretending otherwise doesn't make relationships safer. It makes men blind. The danger isn't female nature. The danger is lying about it. When loyalty is treated as a default guarantee instead of a rare alignment, men stop selecting and start hoping. They ignore patterns, excuse contradictions, and override instinct in favor of what they were told should be true. This isn't about bitterness or blame. It's about accuracy. The world doesn't reward men who believe narratives over evidence. It punishes them quietly. And once you understand that loyalty isn't owed, promised, or moralized into existence, but revealed over time, through behavior, you stop arguing with reality. You stop asking the wrong questions. You stop trying to prove worth. You begin to see clearly. And clarity, whether society likes it or not, is where power actually starts. Society doesn't teach loyalty as a behavior. It sells it as an identity, something permanent, unconditional, and morally guaranteed once a relationship is labeled serious. From the moment you're young, the message is repeated in different forms if you show up. If you're patient, if you're good enough, she'll stay. Loyalty is framed not as something observed over time, but as something you earned through effort and character. And that belief feels comforting because it promises control. Do the right things, follow the script, and the outcome is secure. But that promise quietly infantilizes men. It teaches you to trust narratives over patterns, words over behavior, and hope over discernment. Reality doesn't work that way, and it never has. The lie persists because it serves the system, not you. Loyalty myths keep social order intact. They reduce friction, discourage questioning, and maintain the illusion that outcomes are fair and predictable. A man who believes loyalty is guaranteed is easier to manage than a man who screens, selects, and walks away calmly when patterns don't align. That's why the moment you question loyalty, the labels appear: insecure, controlling, misogynistic. You're not attacked for being wrong. You're attacked for refusing to play your assigned role. Notice how often men are told things like, "If you trust her, you wouldn't think this way," or "Real men don't worry about that." These phrases aren't arguments. They're social pressure designed to shut down perception. And this is where men sabotage themselves. When something feels off, instead of observing, they escalate. They ask for reassurance. They push conversations about commitment. They try to clarify feelings that haven't stabilized yet, or they collapse. They tell themselves they're overthinking. They double down on being supportive, patient, understanding. Both reactions are taught. Both are wrong. Escalation confirms insecurity. Collapse rewards ambiguity. The social lie trains you to do either one, but never to stand still and watch behavior reveal truth. Here's the uncomfortable realization. This section is meant to trigger. You were trained not to see clearly. You were trained to equate doubt with weakness and discernment with fear. Loyalty was sold to you as a moral constant, so you wouldn't treat it as a variable. But in the real world, loyalty is conditional. It responds to capacity, environment, temptation, and self-regulation. Ignoring that doesn't make you noble. It makes you blind. And once you see that the story was designed to keep you compliant rather than accurate, you stop arguing with it. You stop defending yourself for noticing patterns. You stop chasing certainty. And that's when your perspective finally becomes your own. Here's the critical reframe. Most men never receive. Performance is not capacity. Some women can perform loyalty convincingly for years without ever having the internal structure to sustain it long-term. Capacity for loyalty is not about intentions or promises. It's about psychological wiring, emotional regulation, delayed gratification, and identity stability determine whether loyalty is something a person is or something they do while conditions are favorable. Conditioning, on the other hand, is external. Rules, social pressure, fear of judgment, limited opportunity. A woman can look loyal for a very long time when the environment does the regulating for her. Remove the pressure, remove the incentives, introduce novelty or validation, and what's underneath starts to surface. This is why so many men are blindsided. They confuse duration with depth. They say things like, "She's never given me a reason not to trust her," or "She's not that type of person." What they're really saying is that the environment hasn't tested capacity yet. Loyalty under surveillance isn't loyalty. It's compliance. If her behavior depends on being watched, constrained, or emotionally managed, it's not evidence of wiring, it's evidence of conditioning. And the moment you sense that difference, the worst thing you can do is escalate. Interrogating, checking, demanding reassurance doesn't create loyalty. It replaces self-regulation with external control. Attraction collapses, and compliance becomes resentment. The opposite mistake is collapse. When men sense fragility, they soften their standards. They over-accommodate. They tell themselves, "Everyone needs freedom," or "I don't want to be controlling," while slowly abandoning discernment. This rewards instability. It teaches that ambiguity has no cost. Neither escalation nor collapse reveals truth. Both distort it. Capacity reveals itself only when pressure is low and choice is high. Listen to how capacity leaks through language. Statements like, "I don't think one person can fulfill everything," or "I just go with how I feel in the moment," aren't red flags on their own, but they are disclosures. They tell you gratification outranks commitment internally. You don't argue. You don't moralize. You note alignment. You watch what happens when boredom enters, when validation appears elsewhere, when novelty presents itself without consequence. This is the uncomfortable part. A woman can be loyal to you for years and still not be wired for loyalty. That doesn't make her deceptive. It makes her human. The mistake is assuming performance equals capacity. Once you understand the difference, you stop trying to manage outcomes. You stop asking the wrong questions. You don't escalate to control, and you don't collapse to keep peace. You let structure, or the lack of it, reveal itself. And that's when selection replaces hope. This is where most men get misled, because they're taught to treat loyalty as a uniform trait, instead of a spectrum of capacity. In reality, there are 3 broad archetypes, and confusing them is what destroys discernment. The first is the structurally loyal woman. Her identity is anchored outside of stimulation family, legacy meaning, long-term vision. Loyalty isn't something she performs when things feel good. It's part of how she organizes her life. Boredom doesn't scare her. Temptation doesn't destabilize her. She can feel attraction without needing to act on it, because her sense of self isn't dependent on constant emotional peaks. When she says things like, "I value stability," or "I think long-term," it's not branding, it's alignment. With this type, loyalty persists even when novelty fades, and no amount of external pressure is required to maintain it. The second archetype is far more common and far more misunderstood: the conditional loyalist. She is loyal while she feels stimulated, validated, emotionally fed. When the relationship provides energy, attention, and identity reinforcement, she stays engaged. When those inputs drop through routine, stress, or familiarity, she doesn't explode. She drifts. Her language sounds reasonable. "I just don't feel the same spark. I don't know what's wrong. I just feel off. I need more from the connection." Men escalate here, trying to fix feelings with effort, or collapse, trying to preserve harmony. Both responses miss the truth. Her loyalty isn't rooted in structure, it's tethered to sensation. Change the emotional weather, and her orientation changes with it. The third archetype is the most dangerous to misread: the non-loyal by nature woman. She thrives on novelty, emotional intensity, and external validation. Loyalty feels suffocating to her, not grounding. Stability registers as stagnation. She often speaks in absolutes that sound philosophical but signal instability. "I don't believe humans are meant to be monogamous. I don't want to feel owned. I need freedom to be myself." None of these statements are lies. They are disclosures. The mistake men make is trying to negotiate structure with someone who experiences structure as threat. Escalation triggers rebellion. Collapse invites quiet contempt. Here's the key point that ties it all together. Men are taught to treat all 3 archetypes as identical, to assume loyalty is universal and deviation is an anomaly. It isn't. The correct response is never to interrogate or convince. You don't escalate to force loyalty, and you don't collapse to accommodate instability. You observe, you screen, you notice who remains grounded under boredom, who drifts under comfort, and who resists attachment entirely. Loyalty doesn't need to be demanded from the right person. It reveals itself naturally. And once you understand these archetypes, you stop asking whether loyalty is possible. You start asking with whom it actually is. This section isn't about suspicion. It's about calibration. The fastest way to see loyalty capacity isn't through promises or labels, but through the language people use when they feel safe enough to be honest. Take the phrase, "I just don't believe one person can meet all your needs." On the surface, it sounds mature, open-minded, even compassionate. But what it signals is low loyalty capacity. It reveals a worldview where gratification is prioritized over containment, where commitment is seen as unrealistic rather than chosen. The mistake men make here is arguing philosophy, trying to sound reasonable in response. That's escalation. You don't debate beliefs that are being disclosed. You note alignment and move accordingly. Another common one is boss. I don't like labels. They feel restrictive. Again, it sounds harmless, even modern. But labels don't restrict people who are internally stable. They restrict people who experience structure as pressure. This isn't about commitment anxiety in the abstract. It's about autonomy being prioritized over bonding. When men hear this, they often collapse. They say things like, "That's fine. We don't need labels," thinking flexibility will buy closeness. What it actually does is remove the last incentive for structure. You don't convince someone to value bonding by abandoning it yourself. You simply observe whether their behavior moves toward clarity or remains conveniently undefined. Then there's the phrase that shows up right before drifting begins. I need to feel alive. This isn't a cry for growth. It's a signal of stimulation-dependent attachment. Feeling alive becomes something the relationship is responsible for providing, rather than something generated internally. When novelty fades or routine sets in, dissatisfaction is inevitable. Men respond to this by trying to re-inject excitement, planning more, giving more, becoming louder emotionally. That's escalation dressed as effort. The correct move is restraint. You don't compete with novelty. You don't perform for attention. You watch whether stability is experienced as grounding or suffocating. Here's the instructional layer most men skip: don't argue. Don't convince. Don't moralize. Words are not contracts. They're windows. A woman telling you how she sees relationships is doing you a favor, not testing you. You don't need to correct her worldview or defend yours. You let patterns form. You watch what happens when comfort arrives, when boredom enters, when validation appears elsewhere. Loyalty capacity isn't hidden. It's leaked through language, behavior, and response to structure. When you stop reacting emotionally to these disclosures, no escalation, no collapse, you gain something far more valuable than certainty. You gain clarity, and clarity removes the need to chase promises that were never meant to be kept. Men are taught to miss this because they're trained from the beginning to believe loyalty is earned through effort. Show up. Be patient. Be understanding. Sacrifice. The message is subtle, but constant if you do enough. Give enough. Tolerate enough. Loyalty will follow. This belief feels noble, but it's a trap. Effort does not create attraction. Sacrifice does not produce security. And stability is not a loyalty trigger for every woman. Yet men are encouraged to confuse all three, to mistake labor for leverage. When something feels unstable, they respond by doing more, not by seeing more. This is why men escalate. They try to fix uncertainty with effort. More communication, more reassurance, more emotional availability. They say things like, "I just want to make this work," or "Tell me what you need and I'll do it." That sounds mature, but it quietly shifts the dynamic. Attraction doesn't grow from negotiation. Loyalty doesn't emerge from pressure. When effort increases while clarity decreases, respect erodes. And when that doesn't work, men collapse. They internalize the problem. Maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I need to be more patient. They lower standards in the name of understanding. believing sacrifice will buy security. It doesn't. It teaches that ambiguity has no cost. The lie persists because it serves everyone except the man living inside it. It keeps men compliant, focused on performance rather than selection. It keeps women unaccountable, because instability can always be framed as emotional complexity rather than misalignment. And it keeps the system smooth. No confrontation, no disruption. No one has to admit that loyalty isn't guaranteed by goodness. It's conditional, contextual, and rare. So instead, men are encouraged to believe that questioning loyalty is a character flaw, that noticing patterns is insecurity, that boundaries are control. These labels don't correct behavior, they suppress perception. Listen to how often men are told things like, "If you trusted her, you wouldn't think that way," or "Love isn't about keeping score." These phrases sound virtuous, but they shut down discernment. They push men toward either escalation, trying to prove trust, or collapse, abandoning instinct to appear evolved. Both reactions protect the illusion while punishing the man who feels something is off. Here's the anchor truth: men aren't betrayed by women. They're betrayed by false assumptions. The belief that effort guarantees loyalty blinds men to capacity, incentives, and patterns. Once you see that, you stop trying to earn something that must already exist. You don't escalate to secure it. You don't collapse to preserve it. You observe. You select. And you accept what reveals itself without trying to negotiate reality into something it was never meant to be. The silent rules matter because this is where most men give away their position without ever realizing it. When loyalty feels uncertain, the instinct is to escalate. Interrogations begin, disguised as concern. Where is this going? Do you see a future with me? Are you talking to anyone else? Then come moral lectures about commitment, honesty, and trust, as if values can be argued into existence. Some men try to force commitment early, hoping structure will create loyalty retroactively. All escalation does is communicate fear. It tells her you're trying to secure something that isn't naturally offered. Attraction shrinks under pressure, and whatever loyalty might have existed turns into compliance at best, resentment at worst. The opposite mistake feels more mature, but it's just as destructive. Collapse. Overgiving in the name of understanding. More patience. More flexibility. More emotional labor. Men start saying things like, "I don't want to rush you," or "I just want you to feel comfortable," while slowly shrinking themselves to avoid friction. Self-blame creeps in. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe this is just how relationships are. This doesn't create safety. It erases boundaries. When you make yourself smaller to keep someone, you teach them that your presence has no weight. Loyalty doesn't grow in spaces where standards quietly disappear. Aware men do neither. They don't escalate, and they don't collapse. They screen quietly. They let comfort arrive and watch what happens next. They notice how someone behaves when boredom enters, when routine replaces novelty, when temptation presents itself without consequences. They don't rush to interpret every mood swing, and they don't ignore consistent patterns either. They accept information without emotional chaos. If someone resists clarity, avoids structure, or drifts when stimulation fades, they don't argue with it. They register it. This is where the shift happens. Instead of trying to negotiate loyalty through effort or patience, they recognize that loyalty is a selection trait, not a reward. You don't force it. You don't earn it by suffering. You don't secure it by disappearing. You observe whether it exists under normal conditions. If it does, it requires very little management. If it doesn't, no amount of escalation or collapse will manufacture it. That's why the key line matters. You don't negotiate loyalty. You select for it. The moment you stop trying to control outcomes and start respecting patterns, you regain leverage without confrontation. You stop proving. You stop pleading. You stand still long enough for truth to show itself. And when it does, you respond calmly, not emotionally. That's the difference between reacting like a man who fears loss and moving like a man who understands alignment. This isn't about hating women, and it never was. Anger is what shows up when clarity arrives too late. What you're being asked to develop here is something quieter and far more useful discernment. Not everyone is built for the same game, and pretending otherwise doesn't make you noble, it makes you misaligned. Some people are wired for long-term loyalty. Others can perform it under the right conditions. And some experience loyalty as a limitation rather than a value. None of that is a moral failure. It's a difference in structure. The mistake men make is assuming everyone wants the same outcome, just because the language sounds similar. Mature clarity doesn't argue with this reality. It doesn't escalate into lectures about commitment or interrogations about intentions. It doesn't collapse into self-blame or over-giving in hopes that patience will convert incompatibility into alignment. Instead, it accepts information calmly. When someone says, "I just want to see where things go," or "I don't want to feel boxed in," the mature response isn't persuasion, it's registration. You don't rush to correct them. You don't rush to accommodate them either. You let their behavior over time confirm what their words already hinted at. Choosing correctly means understanding that loyalty isn't something you negotiate after attachment forms. It's something you observe before stakes are high. You watch how someone handles boredom without inventing drama. You notice how they respond to temptation when no one is watching. You pay attention to whether stability grounds them or suffocates them. And you do this without emotional chaos. No escalation, no collapse, just quiet evaluation. That's not coldness. That's respect for yourself and for reality. Loyalty isn't owed. It's rare. And rare things require discernment, not hope. Hope ignores patterns. Discernment studies them. Hope waits for potential. Discernment looks at capacity. This is where most men get uncomfortable, because it means letting go of the idea that effort guarantees outcome. It means accepting that walking away from misalignment is not failure, but accuracy. If this made you uncomfortable, good. Growth always does. Comfort keeps illusions intact. Discomfort sharpens perception. And once you see clearly, you stop chasing reassurance, stop negotiating fundamentals, and stop mistaking endurance for strength. You choose better, not louder, calmer, not harder. And that shift, quiet, internal, uncompromising, is where mature power actually lives.